is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm here to talk about some new releases coming out through the end of the year that I'm very excited about. So this is a video that I do every quarter, so obviously we are going to be talking about books that are coming out in October, November, and December, basically taking us through the end of 2022. We don't have as many books as the last couple quarters, and this seems to happen every single year, just because publishing does slow down around the end of the year, getting into some holidays, that kind of stuff. So I have 22 titles to talk to you guys about today, and again, I am very excited about these. I don't remember too much about them, so we are going to go through and read the actual summary off of Goodreads. But yeah, that's the whole premise of this video. I've been doing this for a couple years now. So we're going to start with October. I do have one book that is just coming out in October. We don't actually know exactly when, so we're going to start with that one. And that one is How to Bite Your Neighbor and Win a Wager by D.N. Bryn. So this is going to be an indie published vampire book. This is the author of Our Bloody Pearl, which I read last year and absolutely loved, and I also read Once Stolen this year and really enjoyed. I think I also read one of their short stories this year and again, really enjoyed that. So I'm very excited for this new book because it's going to be dealing with vampires, which is a completely different mythical creature than the stuff that they had been writing before. They've been doing a lot of stuff with sirens and that kind of thing. So this one says, I want you to bite me. Vincent Barnes has suffered 4 years as a vampire, and they've been the most miserable years of his pathetic life. Too poor for black market blood, he feeds from sleeping humans to survive. He tries to never intrude on the same prey twice, but after a single delicious taste of a long-lost childhood neighbor, he can't help returning for seconds. Wesley Garcia has been waking up with fang marks. Lucky for him, he needs a vampire to use as bait. He's certain Vitalis Baron Pharmaceutical killed his mother, but to gain access to their covert research labs, he has to bring them a bloodsucker for their experiments. Step 1, a dramatic offer. Stay and you can bite me. Vincent leaps at the chance to gobble Wesley up. Wes's plan is perfect. He'll befriend the vampire, then trick him into coming to the lab. No fighting, no fuss. But Vincent is more than Wesley bargained for, sweet and shy with intoxicating fangs that awaken new desires in Wes. As the two bond, Vincent believes he might have finally found someone worth putting his trust in, and Wes fears neither of them will survive the betrayal he has planned. Moving into some books that do have dates, we have 3 titles coming out on October 4th. The first book is When Life Gives You Vampires by Gloria Duke. Obviously, we're getting into spooky season. We have more vampires. 25-year-old Lily Baines is used to waking up hungover, overweight, and unemployed. Waking up with fangs, not so much. But when it turns out a little light necking has more serious consequences than she ever imagined, Lily's determined to get to the bottom of it. Tristan hadn't meant to turn Lily. It's against vampire law. But now that she's here, they need to team up to save their hides. They strike a truce, fending off other vampires, Lily's work rival turned slayer, and her mother's tone-deaf romance and fitness advice. All while Lily faces down her insecurities about the fact that she lives in a diet-obsessed world with a body that will never age, never die, and never change. Can she learn to love the plus-size woman she'll be forevermore? Then we also have You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince by Timothy Janowski. Bring a little joy to the world, not today, Santa. Matthew Prince is young, rich, and thoroughly spoiled. So what if his parents barely remember he exists and the press is totally obsessed with him? He's on top of the world. But one major PR misstep later, and Matthew was cut off and shipped away to spend the holidays in his grandparents' charming small-town hellscape. Population, who cares? It's bad enough he's stuck in some festive winter wonderland. It's even worse that he has to share a space with Hector Martinez, an obnoxiously attractive local who's unimpressed with anything and everything Matthew does. Just when it looks like the holiday season is bringing nothing but heated squabbles, the charity gala loses its coordinator and Matthew steps in as a saintly act to get home early on good behavior, with Hector as his maddeningly +1. But even a Grinch can't resist the unexpected joy of found family, and in the end, the forced proximity and infectious holiday cheer might be enough to make a lonely prince's heart grow 3 sizes this year. And then we also have Lute by Jennifer Marie Thorne. This one is billed as Wicker Man meets Final Destination. On the idyllic island of Lute, each 7th summer, 7 people die. No more, no less. Lute and its inhabitants are blessed, year after year, with good weather, good health, and good fortune. They live a happy, superior life untouched by the war that rages all around them. So it's only fair that every 7 years, on the day of the tithe, the island's gift is honored. Nina Treadway is new to the day. A Florida girl by birth, she became a lady through her marriage to Lord Treadway, whose family has long protected the island. Nina's heard about the day, of course. Heard about the horrific tragedies, the lives lost, but she doesn't believe in it. It's all superstitious nonsense. Stories told to keep newcomers at bay and youngsters in line. Then the day begins, and it's a day of nightmares, of grief, of reckoning. But it is also a day of community, of survival and strength, of love at its most pure and untamed. When the day ends, Nina and Lute will never be the same. There's also one book coming out on October 5th, which is going to be Saga Volume 10 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is obviously the 10th volume in a comic series, so we're not going to read the summary of this. I've definitely talked about this on my channel. It is a very, very popular series on BookTube. It had taken a couple-year hiatus, I want to say, around 2019 to actually probably 2021, like the beginning of 2021, and they did start finally releasing issues, I believe January of this year. So this is the first new full volume with probably 4 or 5 issues in it. I'm very excited. It is a sci-fi fantasy series. It gets very, very hard-hitting, but yeah, I'm very excited that we're gonna have a new like bind-up volume. There are also 2 books coming out on October 11th. The first is Princess of Souls by Alexandra Christo. This is the same author as To Kill a Kingdom, which I do remember reading and loving a few years ago. So this is going to be a Rapunzel-inspired YA fantasy romance. For 16 years, Celestra Somniatis has been trapped in a castle on the floating mountain, preparing to take her mother's place as King Sereth's right hand. Tied by blood to steal souls for the immortal king of the 6 Isles, the Somniatis Witch foretells the deaths of participants in the Festival of Predictions. To outrun your fate is to save your soul and steal the king's immortality. But if you die, your soul is forfeit. And though thousands have tried, nobody has ever beaten death. As a soldier in King Sereth's army, Nox Lateric is an unlikely candidate for the festival, but he has no plans to die at the hands of the king or his witches. His plan is more akin to violent revenge. Steal the king's immortality and kill the entirety of his court, starting with Celestra herself. But when Celestra touches Nox in her very first prediction, she sees her own death alongside his. Their fates are unmistakably intertwined, and Celestra is no longer safe in the only home she's ever known. Nox and Celestra will have to enter a turbulent alliance in order to survive long enough to free the 6 Isles from King Sereth's clutches and escape the new fate that hunts them. And then we also have Lore Volume 3 by Rachel Smith. I've definitely talked about these books on my channel as well. Again, 3rd volume in like a comic series, so we can't really get into the summary for whatever this specific book's summary is, but it is something that started on Webtoon, and it's like a retelling of Greek myths, Greek gods, specifically Hades and Persephone. I love the art style on this because each character is like its own color scheme, and it's very, very stylized. But yeah, very excited for more in this series. And then there are also 3 books coming out on October 18th. The first is The Whispering Dark by Kelly Andrew. Delaney Myers Petrov is tired of being seen as fragile just because she's deaf. So when she's accepted into a prestigious program at Godboll University that trains students to slip between parallel worlds, she's excited for the chance to prove herself. But her semester gets off to a rocky start as she faces professors who won't accommodate her disability, and a pretentious upperclassman fascinated by Delaney's unusual talents. Colton Price died when he was 9 years old. Quite impossibly, he woke several weeks later at the feet of a green-eyed little girl. Now, 12 years later, Delaney Myers Petrov has stumbled back into his orbit, but Colton's been ordered to keep far away from the new girl, and the voices she hears calling to her from the shadows. Delaney wants to keep her distance from Colton. She seems to be the only person on campus who finds him more arrogant than charming. Yet after a Godboll student turns up dead, she and Colton are forced to form a tenuous alliance, plummeting down a rabbit hole of deeply buried university secrets. But Delaney and Colton discover the cost of opening the doors between worlds when they find themselves up against something old and nameless, an enemy they need to destroy before it tears them and their forbidden partnership apart. Then we also have Paris Daillencourt is About to Crumble by Alexis Hall. This is the 2nd book in the Winner Bakes All series. The first one was Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake. I do not believe you have to read the first one before you read this one. I do own the first one, haven't read it yet, and I do want to read it, but I also am very interested in this one. Paris Daillencourt is a recipe for disaster. Despite his passion for baking, his cat, and his classics degree, constant self-doubt and second-guessing have left him a curdled, directionless mess. So when his roommate enters him in Bake Expectations, the nation's favorite baking show, Paris is sure he'll be the first one sent home. But not only does he win week 1's challenge, he meets fellow contestant Tariq Hassan. Sure, he's the competition, but he's also cute and kind with more confidence than Paris could ever hope to have. Still, neither his growing romance with Tariq nor his own impressive bakes can keep Paris's fear of failure from spoiling his happiness. And when the show's vicious fanbase confirms his worst anxieties, Paris's confidence is torn apart quicker than tear and share bread. But if Paris can find the strength to face his past, his future, and the chorus of hecklers that live in his brain, he'll realize it's the sweet things in life that he really deserves. And then we also have A Cosmic Kind of Love by Samantha Young. When event planner Haley Goodman receives party inspiration material from the bride of her latest wedding project, the last thing she expects to find in the files are digital videos from Darcy's ex-boyfriend. Haley knows it's wrong to keep watching these personal videos, but this guy is cute, funny, and an astronaut on the International Space Station to boot. She's only human, and it's not long until she starts sending emails and video diaries to his discontinued NASA address. Since they're bouncing back, there's no way anyone will ever be able to see them, right? Christopher Ortiz is readjusting to life on Earth and being constantly in the shadow of his deceased older brother. When a friend from NASA's IT department forwards him the emails and video messages Haley has sent, he can't help but notice how much her sense of humor and pink hair make his heart race. Separated by screens, Haley and Chris are falling in love with each other, one transmission at a time, but can they make their star-crossed romance work when they each learn the other's baggage? Okay, now moving into November, on November 1st, there are 3 titles. The first is The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. Hemlock Falls isn't like other towns. You won't find it on a map, your phone won't work here, and the forest outside town might just kill you. Winnie Wednesday wants nothing more than to join the Luminaries, the ancient order that protects Winnie's town and the rest of humanity from the monsters and nightmares that rise in the forest of Hemlock Falls every night. Ever since her father was exposed as a witch and a traitor, Winnie and her family have been shunned. But on her 16th birthday, she can take the deadly Luminary Hunter trials and prove herself true and loyal, and restore her family's good name, or die trying. But in order to survive, Winnie enlists the help of the one person who can help her train, Jay Friday, resident bad boy and Winnie's ex-best friend. While Jay might be the most promising new hunter in Hemlock Falls, he also seems to know more about the nightmares of the forest than he should. Together, he and Winnie will discover a danger lurking in the forest no one in Hemlock Falls is prepared for. Not all monsters can be slain, and not all nightmares are confined to the dark. Then we also have Cruel Illusions by Margie Fuston. Ever since a vampire murdered her mother, Ava has been determined to get revenge. This all-encompassing drive has given her the fuel she needed to survive foster home after foster home. But it's been 10 years since anyone's seen a vampire, and Ava has lost hope that she'll ever find one, until she stumbles across a hidden magic show where she witnesses impossible illusions. The magicians may not be the bloodsuckers she's hunting, but Ava is convinced something supernatural is at play. So she sneaks backstage and catches them in acts they can't explain. But they've been waiting for her. The magicians reveal they're part of an ancient secret society with true magic, and Ava has the same power in her blood that they do. If she joins them, they promise to teach her the skills she needs to hunt vampires and avenge her mother. But there's a catch. If she wants to keep the power they offer, she needs to prove she's worthy of it. And to do so, she must put on the performance of her life in a sinister and dangerous competition where illusion and reality blur and the stakes are deadly. And then we also have Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell. This is not a sequel to Winter's Orbit, but it is going to be set in the same world. Rich socialite, inveterate flirt, and walking disaster, Tinelhin Halkana can read minds. Tenel, like all neuromodified readers, is a security threat on his own, but when controlled, readers are a rare asset. Not only can they read minds, but they can navigate chaotic space, the maelstroms surrounding the gateway to the wider universe. Conscripted into the military under dubious circumstances, Tenel is placed into the care of Lieutenant Surit Yenny, a duty-bound soldier, principled leader, and the son of a notorious traitor general. Whereas Tenel can read minds, Surit can influence them. Like all other neuromodified architects, he can impose his will onto others, and he's under orders to control Tenel by merging their minds. Surit accepted a suspicious promotion, Track requested out of desperation, but he refuses to go through with his illegal orders to sync and control an unconsenting Tenel. So they lie. They fake a sync bond and plan Tenel's escape. Their best chance arrives with a savage retrieval mission into chaotic space, to the very neuromodification lab that Surratt's traitor mother destroyed 20 years ago. And among the rubble is a treasure both terrible and unimaginably powerful, one that upends a decades-old power struggle and begins a war. Tennell and Surratt can no longer abandon their unit or their world. The only way to avoid life under full military control is to complete the very sink they've been faking. Can two unwilling weapons of war bring about peace? Then 2 books are coming out on November 8th. The first is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is actually a book that came out, I believe, at the very beginning of this year as an indie published book and got picked up by a big publisher. I think this is going to be published by Tor. Yes. And so it'll be coming out traditionally now on November 8th. So, high fantasy with a double shot of self-reinvention. Worn out after decades of packing steel and raising hell, Viv the Orc Barbarian cashes out of Warrior's life with one final score. A forgotten legend, a fabled artifact, and an unreasonable amount of hope lead her to the streets of Thune, where she plans to open the first coffee shop the city has ever seen. However, her dreams of a fresh start pulling shots instead of swinging swords are hardly a sure bet. Old frenemies and Thune's shady underbelly may just upset her plans. To finally build something that will last, Viv will need some new partners and a different kind of resolve. This is going to be a hot cup of fantasy slice of life with a dollop of romantic froth. And then we also have Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. A magical detective dives into the affairs of Chicago's divine monsters to secure a future with the love of her life. This sapphic period piece will dazzle anyone looking for mystery, intrigue, romance, magic, or all of the above. An exiled augur who sold her soul to save her brother's life is offered one last job before serving an eternity in hell. When she turns it down, her client sweetens the pot by offering up the one payment she can't resist: the chance to have a future where she grows old with the woman she loves. To succeed, she is given 3 days to track down the White City Vampire, Chicago's most notorious serial killer. If she fails, only hell and heartbreak await. And then 2 books are coming out on November 15th. The first is Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. This is the 3rd book in the Spoiler Alert series, although they are standalone novels. Maria's one-night stand, the thick-thighed, sexy Viking of a man she left without a word or a note, just reappeared. Apparently, Peter's her surly Gods of the Gates co-star, and they're about to spend the next 6 years filming on a desolate Irish island together. She still wants him, but he now wants nothing to do with her. Peter knows this role could finally transform him from a forgettable character actor into a leading man. He also knows a failed relationship with Maria could poison the set, and he won't sabotage his career for a woman who's already walked away from him once. Given time, maybe they can be cooperative colleagues or friends. Possibly even best friends, but not lovers again, no matter how much he aches for her. For years, they don't touch off camera, but on their last night of filming, their mutual restraint finally shatters, and all their pent-up desire explodes into renewed passion. Too bad they still don't have a future together, since Peter's going back to Hollywood while Maria's returning to her native Sweden. She thinks she needs more than he can give her, but he's determined to change her mind, and he spent the last 6 years waiting, watching, wanting. His shipwrecked Swede doesn't stand a chance. And then we also have Africa Risen. This is edited by Cherie Renee Thomas. This is going to be a collection of short stories, and it does say it is a new era of speculative fiction, so I'm pretty sure these are like all sci-fi, and I'm very excited. From an award-winning team of editors comes an anthology of 32 original stories showcasing the breadth of fantasy and science fiction from Africa and the African diaspora. A group of cabinet ministers query a supercomputer containing the minds of the country's ancestors. A child robot on a dying planet uncovers signs of fragile new life. A descendant of a rain goddess inherits her grandmother's ability to change her appearance, and perhaps the world's. So this is just some samples of the stories. They're not going to tell us everything, obviously, but I am excited to try this out, even though I'm not the biggest short story person. Then 1 book is coming out on November 22nd, which is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sequel to Delilah Green Doesn't Care. And I do believe, because of some of the events that happened in the first book, I don't want to read the summary on this one to you guys here in case you have not read the first book, because there are probably going to be spoilers about stuff that happened in the first book. But it is going to be a sequel, different couple, still sapphic, still a romance, obviously. I'm very, very excited for it because I loved the first one so, so much. Moving into December, there is 1 book coming out in December, but we don't have an actual date yet, called Dandelion Boys by Zaya Feli. This is going to be an indie published book, and I have been recommended Zaya Feli before by somebody commenting on my videos, and so this one sounded interesting. Lucas is 17 and about to step into a future full of possibilities when a traffic accident takes the lives of both his parents. The life Lucas took for granted is left in ruins. With no other family to take him, Lucas is sent across the country to Winterholm Therapeutic School for Boys in hopes that the school can help him recover from his grief and steer his life back on track. At Winterholm, Lucas meets Alex, a quiet and serious fellow student with a shady past and a thunderstorm brewing in his eyes. The other boys warn Lucas to stay away from Alex, but fate seems insistent on bringing them together. Soon, Lucas discovers that the school meant to be his salvation is nothing like what he expected. As Lucas struggles to adapt to a harsh and unforgiving environment, Alex offers him only one piece of advice. Lucas must not care about anyone or anything. If he does, Winterholm will break him. And then as for books that do have release dates in December, there are 2 books coming out December 6th. The first is Witcha Gonna Do by Avery Flynn. Could it possibly get any worse than having absolutely no magical abilities when you're a member of the most powerful family of witches ever? It used to be that I'd say no, but then I keep getting set up on dates with Gil Connolly, whose hotness is only matched by his ego. Seriously, I can't stand him. Even if I also can't stop thinking about him, specifically kissing him, but we're going to pretend I never told you that part. So yeah, my life isn't the greatest right now, but then it goes straight to the absolute worst hell when I accidentally make my sister's spell glitch and curse my whole family. And the only person who can help non-magical me break the spell, you guessed it, Gil the super hot jerk. Now we have to work together to save my family and outmaneuver some evil-minded nefarious forces bent on world domination. Oh yeah, and we have to do all that while fighting against the attraction building between us because I may not be magical, but what's happening between Gil and I sure feels like it. Then we also have The Poison Season by Mara Rutherford. Lilo has spent her entire life on Endla, coexisting with the bloodthirsty forest and respecting the poisonous lake that protects her island from outsiders who seek to destroy it. But as much as Lilo cares for her community, she struggles to accept that her younger brother will be exiled by his next birthday, unless he gains the magic of enchanted song so vital to Endla. When Lilo sees a young outsider on the verge of drowning in the lake, she knows exactly what she's supposed to do. But in a moment that will change everything, Lilo betrays her family, her best friend, and Endla by making an unthinkable choice. Discovery could lead to devastating consequences for both Lilo and the outsider Jaren, but as they grow closer, Lilo realizes that not all danger comes from beyond the lake, and they can only survive if Lilo is willing to question the very fabric of her society, her people, and herself. And then finally, there is one book coming out on December 13th, which is A Million to One by Adiba Jagradar. So this is going to be a like Titanic meets a heist novel, or it says Ocean's 8. So, a thief, an artist, an acrobat, an actress, while Josefina, Emily, Hina, and Violet seemingly don't have anything in common, they're united in one goal: stealing the Rubaiyat, a jewel-encrusted book aboard the RMS Titanic that just might be the golden ticket to solving their problems. But careless mistakes, old grudges, and new romance threaten to jeopardize everything they've worked for and put them in incredible danger when tragedy strikes. While the odds of pulling off the heist are slim, the odds of survival are even slimmer. So, very excited for that as well, and that actually, like I said, is going to be it. Just 22 titles today, which still seems like quite a bit, but not as crazy as some of my other videos like this. I would like to know if you're excited for any of these titles, or if I've missed any that you are excited for and you think I should know about. Leave that comment down below. But otherwise, that's going to be it for today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I currently have videos coming out on Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!